I don't want a baby with an old woman.
When I told my husband I was pregnant, he yelled at me and slammed his fist against the table.
That's gross. Go and get an abortion. You are making enough money to easily pay for it.
His face looked like the devil. My mind went blank, and I barely managed to form words in shock. But you're the one who didn't use birth control even though I told you so. Besides, I thought you'd be happy even though it's an unexpected baby. We are married after all.
Huh? Are you kidding me? What nonsense are you talking about? I mean, you're over 40. You are crazy to have a baby and try to raise it now. Can't you even think about your own physical strength? Besides, you have the important job of taking care of me, don't you? I feel sick now. I'm going out.
He brushed back his long blonde hair and walked out of the room. I knew where he was going. He would probably go and play poker or pool. He would lose big as usual and beg me for more money. I thought about what I was going to do. I couldn't think of not having this baby. I knelt on the spot, hugged my stomach, and cried out loud. My name is Claudia. For over 10 years since I entered the workforce, I have lived almost exclusively for the job. Thanks to that, I have been able to build a good career and earn enough money to live on my own with a little luxury. While I was hoping to get married and have children one day, I passed the socially appropriate age to do either. I half gave up, thinking that I would probably be alone for the rest of my life. The turning point came when I turned 40. I happened to visit the wine bar where Jackson was working part-time. We hit it off over drinks. Although he was a little careless, he was younger than me, and his friendly smile looked cute. So we started dating. It was fun at first. He was a good cook and served me dinner every night when I came home tired. Although I never thought I would be with that type of man, it was enjoyable in its own way. Eventually, he moved in with me, and we happened to get married. Although I questioned if it was the right thing to do, I also felt that if I missed the chance, I might have never gotten married. That was the beginning of my mistake. After the marriage, he quit his job and hardly ever cooked for me. He spent all day long either playing games on his phone or playing poker or pool at a bar. Sometimes he helped out at a friend's bar, but the money he earned went to gambling. Also, his verbal abuse toward me started. He clicked his tongue at me over trivial things and criticized me often. However, he still demanded to make love to me, which escalated with time.
We don't need rubber, do we?
Let's use it just in case.
You can't get pregnant anymore, can you? It feels better without it, you know.
After that day, we started doing it without using contraception. I knew it wasn't right, but I was tied up with the thought that I had finally gotten married and needed to put up with it a little. One day, while leading such a life, I found out I was pregnant. I was surprised that a natural conception was possible at my age, and happiness overwhelmed me. I was sure that Jackson was going to take that opportunity to be better. I often heard that having a child repaired a couple's marriage. We could have changed our course in the right direction too. Thinking positively, I hurried home and announced the news to him. But, hey babe, listen! I'm 3 months pregnant.
Whatever. I'm going to order a delivery. Give me your credit card.
Hey, seriously, listen to me. I went to the OBGYN today, and the doctor said congratulations. I was shocked, but I'm happy. He looked at me with his eyes wide open. He stared at me in disbelief.
You are serious?
I told you so. I have some money saved up, and I'm thinking of taking a break for a few years. I have been working all this time, So I thought it would be a good idea. I want to be around the baby as much as possible. He slammed the table hard. I was so startled that I lost my voice. He slowly looked up with a face I had never seen before.
I don't want an old hag's kid. That's disgusting. Get rid of it. You're making enough money to easily pay that much.
His face looked like the devil as he yelled at me with a smirk. I thought he would be happy to hear the news, even though it wasn't an unexpected one. My mind went blank. While I couldn't say anything back to him, he added another blow.
You're out of your mind to have a baby over 40. Think about your own physical strength. Besides, you have the important job of taking care of me.
What the hell? You're the one who refused to use a condom.
Darn it. I never thought an old woman could get knocked up. I feel sick now. I'm going out.
He pushed his long blonde hair back and left the room with obvious annoyance. I knew where he was going. It was either poker or pool at the bar. He was going to lose big, as usual, and was going to beg me for more money with a foolish smile. I knelt and hugged my stomach. For the sake of my baby, I had to be strong. I had no intention to raise my child with him at that point. I packed my belongings in a hurry and left home. 3 years later. Honey, are you sure he's not too heavy?
I'm fine.
My child in Dean's arms was slumbering peacefully. I met Dean after Tim was born. Like me, he was passionate about his work and had worked his way up to a senior executive position through his diligent attitude. He accepted my work and my child, and we got married in the spring. He also readily agreed to my long paternity leave and loved him even more than I did. That day, we were inspecting the wedding venue. I thought that after everything that had happened, I was finally going to have a happy marriage. Then, I stepped into the wedding hall and saw a familiar blonde figure. No, Jackson?
What's wrong, hon? You look pale.
I'm fine, let's go. I was hoping that he would not notice me as I walked through the hall. I glanced at Jackson and saw a woman younger than me, dressed in a designer brand clothes next to him. As I was thinking, he had not given up on the gigolo life. His eyes and mine locked. His expression turned into a disgusting smile, as if he had found his prey. The smile that I had thought was cute when I first met him was now giving me trepidation.
Hey you, Claudia, right?
Unwilling to interact, I pulled on Dean's sleeve and tried to move forward. Jackson advanced toward us without care and whispered in a voice that only we could hear. With a sarcastic smile on his face, he said,
What a perfect couple. An old man is an ideal partner for an old woman. I feel sorry for the kid with such an old dad. Why don't you just put him in a facility already?
Babe, the reception is done. We have to go.
Oh, sorry, Kathy.
He instantly changed the tone of his voice. It was obvious that he was a parasite on the woman. When Kathy walked past us, her whole body smelled of perfume, and she looked me up and down. Then, her expression changed to a surprise when she saw Dean standing beside me. As I was wondering why, Jackson walked past me and whispered in my ear,
It's not a wedding venue, but a nursing home would suit you guys better. You see, Kathy is surprised too. You've got plenty of money, so why don't you just go there?
I wanted to fight back, but my old memories came back to me, and I froze. I couldn't understand why I had to be attacked like that by him. He was just a scumbag who couldn't do anything on his own. Dean put his arm around my shoulder to comfort me. His warmth and Tim's sleeping face almost made me cry. I'm sorry for making you feel bad. I told you before, He's Tim's father.
Don't say more, and don't worry about it. You didn't do anything wrong.
But he somehow had a mischievous smile on his face and confidently said,
I have a good idea. Will you leave it to me?
On our wedding day, Dee and I pledged our future to each other in front of the many guests. Tim was watching me and smiling next to my parents. When I secretly waved my hand, he did the same with a small hand.
You look beautiful, honey.
Thank you. I had lived my life only for work and had been pushed around by the scumbag. I was finally getting true happiness. Just before the kiss, the door to the chapel was violently swung open.
Claudia, I know you're in there. Come out!
The one who pushed away the stuff and burst inside was disheveled Jackson. His blonde hair, which he had been religiously bleaching, was more than half brown, and his clothes were in tatters. There was a good distance between us, but I could smell the alcohol on him. I panicked, thinking he was trying to ruin even my wedding, and shouted at him, "What are you doing here?"
You ruined my happiness. Go to hell, you old hag.
What are you talking about?
Honey, let me talk.
Dean stepped forward and stared at Jackson, who seemed to be intimidated by his imposing posture. He took a step back with an awkward look on his face.
You brought this on yourself, Jackson.
Dean's explanation went like this. The company he worked for was a partner of the company Kathy ran. They had exchanged business cards once at a business event, and he remembered her. That was the reason why she looked so surprised at the time. He then contacted her to let her know Jackson's true identity. He played her the audio of Jackson's rant that I had recorded a long time ago.
Sorry, can I borrow $100? I will pay you back triple, okay? You old hag is only good at making money, so make more.
When she heard that, she was furious. She prioritized her business over Gigolo and kicked him out immediately.
That's too bad. Hey, you old hag, this is all your fault. You better fix it.
At that time, I heard something snap inside me. You are pathetic. Jackson, apparently not expecting me to retort, wobbled backward in surprise. I yanked up the hem of my dress and walked up to him and yelled, I'm going to give you what you have been doing to me all this time. If you think I'm going to be scared of you forever, you are wrong. You should be ashamed of yourself. You call me a hag, but what about yourself? For someone your age, you keep relying on others. Grow up! The place was quiet for a moment, but the guests immediately started applauding. It spread rapidly and became a tremendous sound. While Jackson was recoiling from the scene, the police grabbed him by the arm and took him away. He seemed to have no intention of resisting and was being taken quietly. His filthy back was so small that I felt sorry for him. It was all over then. A weight had finally been lifted from my shoulders. Sometime later, I'm visiting Jackson's parents with Tim. They are not to blame, so I bring him to see his grandparents once a month. Unlike Jackson, they are sweet to us. How could a person like Jackson come out from them? It is a mystery to me. Or is it because they are too sweet to him that he became such a monster? I have no way of knowing now. My ex-mother-in-law quietly starts speaking. Jackson came here the other day. Oh, was everything okay? We told him we couldn't take care of him anymore and kicked him out. He's living a solitary life without a home or work now. He had quit his job and had been hanging around since he got engaged to Kathy. He thought that if he got married, he wouldn't have to worry about money, so he took out a loan to buy a luxury car. He is now chased by those debts as well. The lack of planning is quite disconcerting, but that's how he is. And the fiasco at your wedding was broadcasted on the local news, you know. All right. One of the guests that day had taken a video with his phone, and it became viral on social media. As a result, it ended up on a local network. Although our faces were hidden, Jackson's face was clearly visible. He said that because of this, he's struggling to even find a part-time job. After what happened, I'm really grateful to you for bringing Tim to see us. He loves visiting you guys, and we thank you too. Are you still working? I'm on a break right now. I'm going to take a little longer and prioritize my life with my boy. My current husband adores him, and we are very happy. Right, Tim? I smiled at him, and his eyes twinkle in return. His happy face blows away all the bad memories of my past.
When I returned from a trip, I heard a man and a young woman in our bathroom. I called the police to report a burglar.
When I arrived home and tried to open the front door, it was already unlocked. I wondered if my husband had forgotten to lock it when he left for work, so I went inside. However, I noticed something unusual. There were women's shoes in the entrance. They were beige enamel high heels. The moment I saw them, my heart felt like it stopped, and I felt a sharp pain. Maybe my husband's work had suddenly been cancelled, and a client was visiting, I thought to myself, trying to calm down. As I cautiously went inside, I could hear the sound of a shower and a man's and a woman's voice. She'll be home in about 2 hours, so we need to clean up quickly. I wish she wouldn't come back ever. It was a man and a young woman's voice, and I knew for sure that the man was my husband. Suddenly, I became calm and went outside to call my husband. What is it? Where are you right now? What? I'm at work, obviously. If that's the case, the men and women inside my house are strangers to me and would be considered burglars. I immediately reported to the police that there were burglars in my house. My name is Susie, a 36-year-old company employee. I live with my husband Tyson and our 5-year-old son. I met my husband when I was already past my 20s, and until then, I was a self-proclaimed workaholic. I was fortunate to find a job that suited me after graduation from college, and I enjoyed working with good people. Even when my friends started getting married, one after another in their 20s, I didn't feel any particular urgency because I was enjoying my work. When I was in my 30s, a friend told me that she had met a boyfriend on a dating app, so out of curiosity, I decided to give it a try. That's how I met my current husband. We both loved movies and could talk about them for hours. After a few dates, I started thinking about marriage, and it seemed that my husband had the same feelings, so we started dating with the assumption that we would get married soon. We got married a year and a half after we started dating, and our son was born the following year. When I was in my 20s, I thought it was okay not to get married, but now I'm grateful that I met my husband and was able to have a son. I never imagined how precious to give birth to a child and become a mother. We are a dual-income couple, and we share housework and childcare. I'm responsible for taking our son to nursery school in the morning, and my husband picks him up in the evening. Since my work often ends later than my husband's, he often cooks dinner, picks up our son from the nursery. Although my husband bears slightly more of the burden of housework, I think the balance is maintained because I have a higher income. We had been doing it that way until our son turned 5, but recently, my husband's work has become busier. He said that his employer was opening new stores one after another, and he was helping with their progress. Although my husband used to leave work at 5 p.m., he sometimes comes home around 10 p.m. now because of the lack of manpower. Hey, honey, you were late again today, huh? You must be tired. Do you want something light for dinner? I'm going to take a shower first. Okay. Will you be coming home at this time for a while? How would I know? If waiting for me is such a hassle, then just go to bed first. That's not what I meant. Sorry. Due to his busy schedule, my husband's behavior has changed and he has become arrogant. It's not just me. He sometimes treats our son harshly and I can't stand it. I have asked with him several times to be kind to our son as he used to be, but my husband refuses to listen. I used to believe that his change in behavior was due to his busy schedule, and I waited for his work to calm down. Since my husband's return home was delayed, I started leaving work early to pick up our son. It was more challenging to finish work earlier than before, but it made me happy to be able to pick up our son. Moreover, I had more time to chat with my mom friends, which was enjoyable because we were all busy in the mornings. We even started going out for lunch together on days off. After adjusting to this new routine, my mom friends invited me on a trip with them and their children. While I was excited about the idea, I felt hesitant to enjoy myself without my husband, who was currently busy with work. I told my friend that I would check with my husband first, and we put the trip on hold. On this particular day, my husband returned home after 11 p.m. Hi, I need your advice on something. Today, one of my mom friends invited me on a trip. Can I go? A trip? What about our son? I'm taking him with me. We'll be gone for 3 days, including 2 nights. That's totally fine. Really? You don't mind? Don't worry about me. Just have fun. I was worried that he might say no, so I'm relieved to hear him say that. The trip was more than a month away, but I was so excited that I bought all the necessary gear early on. The trip day came. We stayed at a hotel that specialized in activities for kids, such as fishing and crafting. On the first 2 days, we ate our way through nearby shops and restaurants. We had planned to go to an amusement park on the last day, but it rained and the plans got cancelled. After lunch with the other moms, my son and I left to go home. Instead of going straight home, I stopped by my parents' house. It's only about a 20-minute drive from our place. When I got there, I gave my mom some souvenirs from the trip. That's when I remembered something. I had received a lot of fruits from our neighbors and wanted to share it with my parents. I left my son with them and went back home to get the fruits. As I tried to unlock the front door, I realized it was already unlocked. Did my husband forget to lock it when he left for work? I walked in and saw a pair of shoes I didn't recognize. They were beige animal high heels. The moment I saw them, my heart felt like it stopped and I felt a sharp pain. Maybe my husband's work had suddenly been cancelled and a client was visiting. I thought to myself, trying to calm down. That's when I heard the sound of a shower and a man's and a woman's voices. She'll be home in about 2 hours, so we need to clean up quickly.
I wish she wouldn't come back ever.
It was a man and a young woman's voice, and I knew for sure that the man was my husband. I felt like my head was about to boil. The way the woman spoke, with a stupidly elongated tone, only made me angrier. I considered barging into the bathroom to make sure she couldn't deny anything, but I didn't want to see anyone naked. Instead, I went outside and called my husband, hoping to catch him and the woman as they left the house. After a long ringing, he finally answered with an annoyed voice. What? He had been distant with me and our son lately, But now I understood. It was because he had been cheating on us. This realization only made me angrier. I had been considerate of his busy job, but he had been lying to us. Despite the urge to confront him right then and there, I tried to stay calm and asked, "Where are you right now?" "At work." "Obviously." "You're not at home, are you?" "What?" "I said I'm at work." "Why are you bothering me when I'm busy?" "While you're enjoying your trip, I'm working." "I'm hanging up now." "Busy working?" he said. As my husband hung up the phone, I couldn't help but wonder how he could speak so arrogantly when he himself was cheating. My plan was to catch him and his mistress as they left the house, but I had to change it now. If he says he's not home, then the man and woman inside my house are strangers to me and would be considered burglars. I immediately reported to the police that there were burglars in my house. As I waited a short distance away, several patrol cars arrived, and the police quickly took action. They stationed officers at the front door, outside the windows, and at the escape route, impressing me with their professionalism. My house was completely surrounded. For my safety, I was told to wait a little further away. Within minutes of the patrol cars arriving, I could hear my husband and his mistress screaming from inside the house. The police officer next to me informed me that they had been apprehended. A few minutes later, a police officer informed me that the man in the house was claiming to be the owner. I was instructed to call my husband, and when he answered the phone, he spoke to me in a voice that I had never heard before, full of joy.
"Thank God, Susie. Where are you now?" "I'm in a bit of trouble. The police are here, and there is a misunderstanding."
"Misunderstanding?"
"Yeah. Well, I was off work today at home, but someone reported a burglary in progress."
"But when I called you earlier, you said you were at work. And you know what? I was the one who made the report."
"Huh?"
Ignoring my confused husband, I hung up the phone. "Sorry, it seems my husband was the one who was home," I told the police, and they exchanged glances as if they understood the situation.
"Well, we'll handle it as a misunderstanding of the report. If anything else happens, please contact us immediately."
With that, the police left. Later, I made my husband and his mistress kneel on the living room floor. The mistress didn't even look up. I asked her to raise her head, because I couldn't talk to her with her face down, but she refused, so I peeked at her. That's when I realized it for the first time. My husband's mistress was Jacqueline, a neighbor whom I had greeted a few times and whose child attends the same nursery school as our son. I had thought she was either a co-worker or a friend, but I never expected it to be Jacqueline. I took my husband's phone and her bag and checked their messages and pictures of their affair. Then I questioned them both. "How did you two meet?"
On a dating app."
"So you were looking for someone on a dating app and that's how you found Jacqueline?"
"No, I wasn't specifically looking for anyone. I was just browsing the app."
"You don't need to make excuses. Didn't you meet her when you picked up your son from the nursery?"
Yeah."
"Did you know it was Jacqueline when you contacted her on the dating app?"
Well, no, I didn't know it was her at first. I only realized this after we started talking and met in person. I wasn't trying to target her from the beginning or anything."
Well, that doesn't really matter now anyway. When I hurriedly checked my husband's smartphone, I found a matching app in the app list. Looking at their exchanges in the matching app, It seemed that they were meeting twice a week. My husband had also contacted her during my trip, saying that they could stay at home during that time. After taking photos of all the exchange screens, I decided to call Jacqueline's husband. I unlocked Jacqueline's smartphone and called her husband, saying, "I'm sorry to disturb you, but my husband is having an affair with your wife, and he's here at our house now." Jacqueline's husband was at work, but he agreed to come immediately. While we were waiting for him, my husband was sweating and looking down. Jacqueline had already resigned herself to the situation and was pouting with her cheeks puffed out. Jacqueline had a bad reputation, with many rumors of being late for nursery school pickup or having neighborhood disputes, so I had avoided getting involved with her as much as possible. I never thought I would be involved in something like this. And I realized that choosing a husband who cheats with such a woman means that I don't have a knack for choosing men. About 30 minutes after the phone call, Jacqueline's husband arrived at the house. He was kind and tried to listen to what had happened without blaming Jacqueline or my husband. But Jacqueline was still sulking, and my husband was just kneeling down. So I explained everything to Jacqueline's husband, since there was no other way. After I finished explaining, Jacqueline's husband let out a big sigh. He said that Jacqueline had often gone to her parents' house because he was too busy with work to help her with housework, so he had allowed it. However, the truth was that she left the child with her parents and enjoyed her affair. I gave Jacqueline's husband the evidence of the affair that I had just obtained, and we exchanged the contact information. When the discussion was over and Jacqueline and her husband left, it was already late at night. I didn't want to stay in the house where my husband spent time with his mistress, so I quickly packed my bags and decided to go to my parents' house.
I'm sorry. I wasn't serious with her. Forgive me. Please.
While I was packing, my husband said that to me, but I ignored everything he said and left the house, leaving behind my husband, who continued to kneel down. When I got to my parents' house, I told them everything. I stayed with my parents for a while and helped them take care of my son while we proceeded with the divorce proceedings. I hired a lawyer and filed for compensation from my husband and Jacqueline. Despite the lawyer explaining the compensation multiple times, Jacqueline insisted that she had done nothing wrong, and the negotiations went nowhere. I thought it was going to be a long battle, but one day she readily agreed to pay the compensation. I was curious about what happened, but I found out the reason from the close mom friend. The burglary at our house had become a topic of conversation because several police cars came and various rumors spread. I don't know where it leaked from, but the rumor that my husband was having an affair with Jacqueline spread, and Jacqueline became more and more the subject of gossip. It seemed quite troublesome to be talked about by the neighbors, so she divorced her husband and moved to a place where she didn't know anyone. Jacqueline's child was taken over by her husband. He intended to go to court for custody, but Jacqueline apparently gave up custody, saying the child was in her way. I was worried that it would be stressful for the child if his mother was gone, but I heard that he was doing well and was full of life. The only thing left was to talk to my ex-husband. I sent him the same paperwork requesting alimony, but he replied that he didn't have the money to pay. Even when I said he could pay in installments, he said he couldn't because he had no income. When I looked into it, I found out that my ex-husband had secretly quit his job when he started cheating with Jacqueline. Moreover, he had used my savings without permission to invest. He was planning to increase his wealth through investment and obtain a passive income. However, Because he started investing without proper study, he quickly ran out of money and currently he has no income. I decided to claim not only compensation and child support, but also the amount he used from my savings. After a long discussion, I got my ex-husband to agree to pay everything, and the divorce was finalized. I stayed with my parents for a while, but now I have started living with my son. I resigned from my company and now work as a freelancer. Although my income has decreased slightly, I am okay because I have enough to get by. More importantly, I have more time with my son than before and can spend my time meaningfully with my friends. I may have made my son feel lonely because of the divorce, but I want to give him a lot of love to make it up for it.
The day after the divorce was finalized, my ex tells me that he remarried. The moment I saw his new wife, I burst out laughing.
Her physique, family background, and personality are all perfect as a wife. Louis, my ex-husband, exclaimed happily over the phone. Oh, that's good for you. What's with that cold reaction? Are you upset? No, not really. We are already divorced, so it doesn't matter to me. Although he has just divorced me, he had already remarried another woman, and he bragged about it to me over the phone. According to what I heard, he got married on the day after our divorce was finalized. I had been too busy with work and house chores to notice, but he must have been cheating on me. That was probably why he had wanted a divorce in the first place. Louis continued to provoke me, either knowingly or unknowingly, by boasting about his new wife. I'll send you a picture of my new wife. She's a real beauty. No, thank you. We're done with our phone call, right? Louis had left all the household chores to me, so he had called me to ask for a location of his belongings. However, despite having already finished with the main reason for the call, he had continued to be snarky and brag about his new wife for almost half an hour. I was fed up with him. Nevertheless, Louis insisted on sending a photo. Come on, just take a look. She's way more stylish than you. Okay, I got it. Anyway, I'm hanging up now. After saying that, I hung up the phone. Soon after, a photo was sent to me. Feeling annoyed, I looked at the photo and was surprised. It was a face I recognized. I couldn't believe that she would appear in such a place again. The thought made me laugh uncontrollably, realizing that this was the end of my ex-husband. My name is Bree, and I am 32 years old. I work at a department store in the next town. I started working as a part-time store clerk in high school and became a full-time employee after graduation. Unlike my brother, who dreamed to become a lawyer, I had no particular ambitions and didn't think I would learn much, even if I went to college. The introduction to my ex-husband Louis was largely due to a male colleague whom I had worked with since my part-time job in high school. He had divorced recently and was a victim of a marriage scam. Since he had only been married for less than a year at that time, I was shocked. She totally deceived me, my colleague said, tearfully, as he came to me for advice. It turns out that his ex-wife had fabricated evidence of his infidelity and demanded a divorce and alimony from him. And that was just the beginning. After the divorce, he met a kind woman and started dating her. But it turned out that she was a marriage scam artist and cahoots with his ex-wife. He convinced him to give his ex-wife a severance payment so they could get married. But after he handed over a large sum of money, the woman disappeared and never returned. He attempted to reason with his ex-wife, but she was demanding even more money from him including alimony. He couldn't get in touch with her, so he asked for advice from my brother Dave because he knew my brother was a lawyer. That's why I phoned my brother's firm for my colleague. The receptionist who answered the phone call happened to be named Louis, and I relayed the details of my colleague's situation to my brother. My brother offered free legal advice, which I passed on to my colleague. With this advice, my colleague was able to locate the scam artist and his ex-wife, and the case was brought to court. They were charged with fraud, and his ex-wife was ordered to pay him alimony. Just as I was feeling relieved that the issue was revoked, I received a call from a man. It was Louis, the receptionist from the law firm.
Excuse me, I'm Louis from the firm.
We talked before on the phone.
As I listened to your story,
I thought what a wonderful woman you are, to go so far for your friend.
I've been wanting to meet you since then. Can we meet once?
While listening to him, I thought he was a strange person to suddenly hit on me over the phone, but at the same time, I was wavering because I wanted a boyfriend at the time. Luckily, he was a staff member at my brother's office, so I listened to what my brother had to say and determined that he wasn't a strange person and decided to meet him. After that, we went on a few dates and officially became a couple. My colleague's problem was resolved, and it led to a wonderful encounter with a great man, so I thought it was all right in the end. Yes, Louis was a wonderful man to me at that time. However, within a year of getting married, he changed. In the early days of our marriage, he helped with the housework in addition to his work at the law firm. Although we were both working, I had returned from a full-time employee to a part-time employee and reduced my work days to balance work and housework. So his help was appreciated. He would clean the bathroom as soon as he came home from work, wash the dishes before leaving for work, cook on his days off, and we would share the cleaning. But he only did this kind of help at the beginning, and gradually he stopped helping with the housework. Not only that, but he started saying things that belittled me.
Bree, you are a high school graduate, right? You're not very smart, huh?
Huh? Suddenly, my husband said something terrible about me, and I was surprised to see him in front of me with a dark expression and almost no facial expression.
You know, about my dress shirt, there were some spots. See?
I almost got embarrassed by my important client during the meeting.
You should at least know how to get rid of stains properly. It's something that everyone should be able to do, right?
What's with the sudden complaints? And besides, education has nothing to do with it.
It's because you can't even do something as simple as that. High school dropouts don't even bother using their brains. So they can't even clean a single shirt properly, can they?
Maybe I just didn't notice it. And even so, what's with the way you say it? It's terrible. Don't you think you are too focused on legal jargon and don't have enough everyday language skills?
What? Say that again? You bitch.
As Louis raised his voice, I also responded in a stern tone, not wanting to back down. I'll say it many times as you want. Your tone is just too harsh. It's unreasonable of you to talk to me as if I'm a stupid person just because there was a stain on your shirt once.
What right do you, who have only worked as a shop assistant, have to say that?
Before we knew it, we were constantly bickering like this. Unreasonable words from my husband were a part of my daily life.
You only know about fashion. You have no common sense, so you don't even fulfill your duties as a wife. It's embarrassing to admit that my wife is only a high school dropout.
I have been constantly told such things by my husband. According to him, I was not doing the household chores to his satisfaction. I often had to work shifts early in the morning or late at night. So I would try to finish the chores quickly. My husband seemed to believe that all the household chores should be done meticulously and with great care by the wife. However, he would not allow me to quit my job because it would put us under financial strain. He instead demanded that I balance work and housework while still satisfying his expectations. This led to constant fights between us. And although I thought about consulting my brother, his office was just getting bigger, and he was very busy. I didn't want to burden him, so instead, I subtly talked to my parents about it. They simply told me to give it some time, since I have been married for a short while. As a result, our relationship continued to deteriorate, and we ultimately decided to separate a few months ago, when Louis told me that he couldn't live with me anymore. When Louis said those words, I didn't feel shocked. Instead, I felt relieved. I was finally free from this terrible man. I knew exactly how I felt and immediately applied for divorce. When I saw a photo of the perfect wife that my ex-husband had sent me, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. The woman he considered his wife was actually a marriage scammer who had tricked one of my colleagues 3 years ago. She had probably not even submitted the marriage registration form. In my head, I connected my colleague's fraud case with this situation and easily guessed what had happened. It was likely that the woman had taken revenge on me, using Louis to get a divorce, because she had been caught for fraud. However, instead of getting revenge, this turned out to be the most convenient outcome for me. After all, we wouldn't want to be rid of such a terrible and abusive husband. I didn't care if Louis was cheated out of his money by her. If he had cheated on me, I wanted him to be punished for it. So, I contacted my brother's firm.
I see. This is turning into quite a story. Like a messy daytime soap opera.
Yeah. Can you tell me what can be done if you find out about your ex-husband's infidelity after the divorce?
Well, based on what we've discussed so far, you should be able to claim compensation for damages, even if you didn't realize he was cheating at the time. If his infidelity contributed to the breakdown of your relationship, you should be able to make a claim. Also, you can only claim compensation for adultery if the person your ex-husband had sexual relations with was someone other than his spouse.
So, if we can prove that Louis's affair was one of the causes of the breakdown of our relationship, and that he had sexual relations with that woman, we can make a claim for damages, right?
That's right. To collect evidence, it would be good to gather things like receipts from his outings to determine the date and time. Also, if possible, any exchanges on social media. He might have told something to his colleagues. So, I'll ask around too.
I've never felt so grateful for my brother being a lawyer before. My brother and I started gathering evidence together. Eventually, we found plenty of evidence that Louis couldn't deny. When the time was right, I headed to my brother's office where Louis was still working.
Bree, why are you here?
What are you talking about? My brother works here. Is it strange for me to come here? Or did you forget that my brother is your boss?
But Dave doesn't like mixing business with pleasure, and it's okay to keep my job here after our divorce.
Just as Louis started saying that, my brother's voice interrupted him.
No, this time Bree has made an official request. So there's no mixing of business and pleasure.
With my brother's words, Louis's expression froze.
If my little sister has made an official request, then it can be considered the most important case.
Ignoring Lucy's surprise, my brother placed some photos on the table.
This is a printout of a WhatsApp screenshot that you sent to your colleague. There are many things written there that indicate that you are having an affair, aren't there?
There were words lined up on the printout that confirmed my brother's words that Louis had cheated.
I've made a reservation at a restaurant here today.
Miss you, Helen. I've told my wife that I have to work this weekend. So let's meet at your place at 9 a.m. I want to leave my wife as soon as possible and be with you. I love you, Helen. It was all content that made me feel disgusted and gave me goosebumps. Additionally, my brother placed a few receipts next to the photos and explained further.
These receipts are from when you went on a trip with Helen, right? Looking at the date, it matches the date on WhatsApp.
Then my brother calmly explained the evidence, while Louis increasingly hunched his shoulders. And when he was told the approximate amount of compensation, Louis fell to his knees right there at the size of the amount.
I'm really sorry. I'll apologize. I'll make it up to you, so please don't claim compensation. So, are you planning to changing your mind and returning to Bree?
Louis looked at my brother and me with a pitiful expression and said,
That's not possible, because I already have a wife. It's the person you married after cheating, isn't it?
My brother said with a grin.
Well then, the compensation claim is inevitable. Since Bree suffered damages, she has the right to legally claim compensation. Oh, and also,
my brother added as if he had just remembered,
you're fired. Recently, you've been leaving work early and your work attitude has been problematic. I guess because you've been so obsessed with that Helen girl. I've let it go because you've been working for a long time, but I can't be quiet about it anymore. Please, pack up your things and leave.
Louis brought himself into even more trouble, and my brother said it with a casual attitude. We knew what was coming. He was about to find out that he had been deceived by Helen and would lose all his money, ending up in a state of misery. And we were right. As expected, Louis was left by Helen and lost a significant amount of money since they had not submitted their marriage registration papers. Although it is a pity, I did not feel inclined to help him, considering what he has done. Marriage fraud is not acceptable, of course, but he was the kind of person who regularly threw abusive words at his wife and cheated on his wife and married again the day after their divorce was finalized. He deserves what he's done. While it is unacceptable that Helen, a swindler, gets away without punishment, my brother said with a cool demeanor,
I think it'd be okay if we leave her alone. She has a criminal record, and the police know her face. And judging by the fact that she's repeating the same thing, she'll probably commit fraud again. Don't worry, she'll be caught soon enough.
As my brother predicted, a few months later, the face and name of the marriage fraudster who had deceived 4 people in 5 years appeared in the newspaper. I am satisfied that I was able to make both my ex-husband Louis and his mistress suffer. As a result, Louis had to pay me compensation while he was in a state of losing a lot of money. He seems to be struggling quite a bit. My ex-husband, who had only worked as a telephone operator for a law firm, seems to be having trouble finding a decent job. He's currently surviving on daily labor, but I want him to work hard for the compensation. As for me, I feel refreshed and my life is back on track after the divorce. I was able to return to my previous job at the shop as a regular employee, and my work is fulfilling. Through this incident, I once again realized the concept of karma. From now on, I want to be even more sincere to myself and those around me and create a lot of happiness.
On the day of the wedding, a man claiming to be the groom calls me to cancel, but the groom is right in front of me.
I'm disappointed to find out that you are a bottom-tier woman, earning only $10,000 a year. I'm calling off the wedding.
On the morning of my wedding, I received a call from a man claiming to be my fiancé. Huh? This should be a mistake. My husband-to-be is right here, drinking coffee in front of me. Besides, my salary is not $10,000 a year. It's $10,000 a month, you know? When I replied with this, the man on the phone was at a loss for words and hung up. I had an idea of who the man might be and immediately contacted someone. I am Heather, a 29-year-old novelist. After graduating from university, I got a job as an editor at a well-known publishing company. I felt like I was living my dream when I was able to get a job at a publishing company that published a series of a novel that I had been reading since high school. However, I resigned after only 3 years, and I'm now writing my novels as a freelancer. Since becoming a freelancer, I have been able to write novels at my own pace without worrying about office hours or quotas. I am satisfied with my life, having achieved my long-cherished dream of publishing my own novel. Although I struggled before my work took off, I now feel that leaving that company was a good decision. However, there are complex and bitter reasons why I quit my job at the publishing company. There was this slightly troublesome male employee named Brand.
Hey, Heather, I was wondering, do you have a boyfriend?
I still remember it vividly when he talked to me for the first time. No, I don't.
How about me as a potential boyfriend for you? Want to exchange contact information and go out for a meal after work?
I felt annoyed by his persistent and overly familiar attitude. I'm sorry, but I'm at work right now. Despite my gentle refusal, Brandt continued to insist on asking me out.
Alright, then see you after work.
I thought Brandt was a troublesome guy, but since we only saw each other at work, I thought he was just teasing me.
You look nice as always, Heather.
His teasing remark was evidence that I wasn't his main target. I thought there was no real harm in his behavior and believed it was just a joke, so I let it go. One day, after work, I opened the door to the company's entrance and found Brandt standing there.
Hey Heather, good work today.
Oh, thank you. As I tried to walk away quickly, Brandt blocked my path and started talking to me.
Hey Heather, how do you come to work?
As he spoke, he followed me. I drive. With only that answer, I hurried toward the company's parking lot. I thought he would give up once I got in my car and drove away, but he waved goodbye with a smile until I turned on the car's engine and drove off. However, the following day, and for a while after that, it was the same routine when I leave. This continued every day, and I became afraid to open the door to the exit on my way out of the building. Brandt's been stalking me, you know. I couldn't bear it any longer, so I consulted with my colleague Nicole, who I occasionally go drinking with outside work. Nicole replied, "What? Really? Has he ever followed you to your house or touched you?" "No, he hasn't. I drive and he rides a bike, so he doesn't follow me to my house." "What does he want?" "But it's okay to leave him alone since there is no actual harm done, right? If something happens, just talk with your boss, okay?" I felt a little revealed after hearing her say that. That's right. Brand and I work in the same department, so I can immediately consult with my supervisor as anything happens. Although I tried not to mind it, Brandt's approach continued. But since there was no actual harm, I couldn't consult with my supervisor. I continued to bear this dilemma for about 2 years, and my patience had reached its limit. With my older sister, a freelance writer's recommendation, I quit my job decisively. I then studied to become a novelist and gradually began to receive work. I had reached the period where my dream of publishing a novel was about to come true. Then, after a long time, I received a call from my former colleague, Nicole. This call from her would later have a significant impact on my fate. "Hey Heather, has anything changed recently?" I had no idea what she was talking about with such a sudden and incomprehensible question. "What do you mean by changed? Is everything okay?" "I mean, have you been followed by someone or anything like that recently?" As she talked, thoughts of Brandt from back then crossed my mind. But since resigning, I haven't had any contact with him at all. "Are you talking about that guy, Brandt?" "Yeah, kinda. Actually, things have been getting dangerous with him lately." "What do you mean?" According to Nicole, Brandt was freaking out when I suddenly quit my job. "He's been asking around the office for a long time, trying to find out where you work now." "That's really creepy. Does he know what I do or where I am?" "I don't think so, but the fact that he's been asking around so persistently and making people uncomfortable has made me worry about you." It's been 3 years since I left the company. But when I heard that Brandt was still trying to track me down, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease creeping up my spine. I'm sorry, Heather. I thought I should tell you." And then I told her something because she seemed so worried. "Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate your thoughts. I'm okay though. My fiancé will protect me, so everything will be fine." "Wait, what? Fiancé? Are you getting married?" "Yeah. I was meaning to call you about the wedding actually. Will you come to my wedding next month?" "Oh my god, yes, of course. This is exciting." "Oh, by the way, Heather, just to be safe," I was on the verge of freaking out after hearing about Brandt, but I managed to shift my mood by telling her about the wedding. My fiancé Eli has been a childhood friend since we were little, and we lived near each other. We used to play together almost every day when we were in elementary school. We grew apart a little during adolescence, but we reunited at a class reunion and started to hang out again. After that, we grew closer and developed feelings for each other, eventually deciding to get married. Our parents had been close friends since they were young, so the meeting was like a gathering of relatives. We completed the registration and moved into our new home. And before we knew it, the wedding day had arrived. "I'm nervous. How do I look?" "You look so handsome." I was playing around with my husband in the dressing room when my phone rang. "You are a bottom-tier woman with a salary of only $10,000 a year. I'm disappointed. We're canceling the wedding." "Who's this?" The caller claimed to be my fiancé. But my fiancé, soon to be my husband, was sitting in front of me, sipping his coffee. "The groom is right next to me, and my salary is not $10,000 a year. It's $10,000 a month." "Huh?" The man on the phone was stunned. I had known from the beginning who was on the other end of the line. It was Brandt. "How did you get my number? And who told you about today's wedding?" I asked in a cold voice I had never used before. I'm your fiancé. So I don't think it's weird to know." From the speakerphone on a smartphone that had been switched over, Brandt's voice echoed. Eli started speaking for me. "Are you the guy who's been bothering Heather?" "Who are you?" "Who are you? Heather's cheating partner?"
I'll sue you.
Brand seemed to have no faith in my fiancé and continued to argue. I'm Heather's fiancé, Eli. So, who are you?
What are you talking about? I'm Heather's fiancé.
The push and pull continued for a while until Brand finally confessed his actions.
I fell in love with Heather at first sight. But she had her guard up and wouldn't give me her contact information no matter how many times I asked. So I was planning on taking my time to get to know her. But leaving without saying anything to me? That's just cruel, Heather.
As Brand revealed the truth, my fiancé Eli continued. So, how did you find out Heather's contact information? And about the wedding today?
I called every single one of Heather's acquaintances and finally got a classmate from my school days to tell me about it.
As Nicole had mentioned, Brand had been searching for me ever since I left the company. He went through all of our mutual acquaintances and finally got in touch with one of my classmates from college. Despite the fact that I had become a somewhat well-known novelist, anyone could easily have found out about my current situation with a quick search. However, the information he received about my income was clearly incorrect. His belief that he was my fiancé was already ridiculous enough, but his behavior was just too abnormal. I hung up the phone in frustration and immediately called someone else.
Oh my gosh. I understand. I'm coming over there right now.
The person on the phone was Brand's mother. According to Nicole, Brand had also stalked a few female classmates during their student days. At the time, his parents had apparently sensed something was wrong, but nothing serious had happened. It seemed that his parents were well aware of his abnormal behavior and thought process. Why don't you just call Brand's parents if something happens? I'll get the contact information for Brand's parents from a friend next time. I never imagined that Nicole's action at that time would actually be helpful. Despite the creepy phone call from Brand, our wedding proceeded smoothly. Then, towards the end, we heard shouting from outside the church. There, Brand was standing.
Brand, how many times do I have to tell you? You are an outsider. That's right, Brand. Don't mix up dreams and reality.
Brand was struggling against a middle-aged couple and shouting.
It's not a dream. My fiancé is here.
In the midst of this chaos, my real fiancé muttered quietly to me.
Really? He actually came?
And when Brand noticed me, he shouted at me.
Heather, clear up my parents' misunderstanding.
I was angry, as this happened during the climax of our wedding ceremony. What are you saying? You are the one with the misunderstanding. I'm not your fiancé. I'm going to be happy with this man. I coldly retorted to Brand, then returned to the church with Eli.
Heather, you were bothered by a troublesome person. You should have talked to me about it.
I smiled worldly at my father's words.
You should always consult those around you before something happens.
My father scolded me with parental concern, and somehow the wedding ended without incident. After a while, I received a message, an apology from Brand's parents. I didn't really care about the apology, but I was worried about what had happened to Brand. If he continued to be left unwatched, he might cause trouble for someone else, just like he did with me. My anxiety grew, so I decided to meet with Brand's parents.
Heather, I'm truly sorry for what our foolish son did to you. Please accept this as a token of our apology. Please. No, I can't.
I politely declined, but they insisted, so I decided to accept it. According to his parents, Brand had persistently followed and caused problems for at least 3 women in junior high, high school, and this time. In junior high, His parents dealt with the situation by placing him under protective supervision. But in high school, the female student who was a victim of his stalking remained silent and transferred to another school. So his stalking behavior was only discovered afterwards.
I thought he had learned his lesson. I never expected him to bother another woman,
Brent's father said with a resigned expression.
We've made him quit his job and entrusted him to our eldest son living in Africa. He will not be returning for a while. Please forget about foolish son.
Brent's parents apologized deeply to me and we left. I learned that his older brother, who works as a translator for charity in Africa, was training him in various jobs under his supervision. When I returned home and saw the compensation money that I received from Brent's parents, I was shocked.
What? $20,000? This is too much. Shouldn't we return this?
As I was bewildered, my husband said,
I think it's okay to keep it. His parents have been manipulated by him for a long time. They were able to apologize to some of the victims, but not to all. Besides, he might be causing trouble for more people without us knowing. If you think about it that way, maybe it's better that you receive the sincere apology from them.
After hearing my husband's words, I reluctantly agreed. I knew for sure there were other women like me who had suffered from his sick behavior. As a final resolution, I decided to accept the money with an open heart. Although there were some ups and downs, my husband Eli and I were able to start a happy married life together. We never know what will happen in life. If we have children in the future, I hope to become parents who can sincerely apologize if our child does something wrong. I also hope to teach our children to have the awareness to apologize to others if they make a mistake. A few years after the incident, I wrote a novel based on Brent. The book became a big hit not only domestically, but also internationally, incorporating elements of suspense, horror, and romance. I was thrilled to write it and received a lot of positive feedback from readers. And now I am considering making it into a series. While spending time with my beloved husband, I continue to pursue my writing. Although it may sound strange, thanks to Brent, I was able to try a new style of writing. With this experience, I hope to lead a smooth and fulfilling life in the future.